If you ask me how comes that David was able to conquer Goliath, the answer is very simple. Is that he knew things that Goliath did not know. Now, welcome to Marketplace Believers, an online platform that equips, encourages, and helps average believer to be useful in business, in leadership, and in civil service. My name is John. By the way, there are things that actually David knew that nobody else knew. And it's based on these studies from First Samuel chapter 17 that actually helped David, being a young man, being unqualified, and being just to be a shepherd, that made him actually to be able to conquer Goliath, a national champion that was actually feared. Now, what did David knew that Goliath did not know? Now, number one, we need to say that David learned by asking questions. Now, every time when you become somebody that asks questions rather than answering questions, you know things that others do not know. And this is a whole paradigm that we need to have. We need to have we need to graduate from answering questions to asking questions. Now, in our normal thinking, we think that asking questions is for children because children will ask us questions. At this time in my life, my kids will ask me lots of questions. Another day, when our firstborn was a little bit younger, he asked me a very funny question that made me to think. He asked me, "Daddy, ukiwa mkubwa utakuwa?" And I'm like, "Hey, don't I look old?" But that's how kids learn. And we need to have that kind of attitude of asking questions. Now, the reason why Goliath lost the battle is because he was somebody who was good at answering questions. We do not grow, we do not move to the next level. We are not able to defeat the limitations around our lives when we thrive on answering questions. And David asked two questions. What will be done to the man who will remove this disgrace? And who does this uncircumcised Philistine think he is? And those were critical questions, and he was seeking answers to those questions. And these are the questions that, the questions that he asked are questions that nobody wanted to ask. And it was based on these answers, or rather, it was based on seeking the answers to these questions that he said, "Then don't worry, because I am going to handle these men." As a Christian in the marketplace, we need to be asking some serious questions. And the questions that we need to be asking are, how can we finish corruption in this country? And how do we elect credible leaders? And who is to be held accountable when things go wrong? And these are questions that we need to be asking every day. And it is upon asking such questions that we are going to go to the next level. So, what did David know that Goliath did not know? And we are saying one of the things is that he asked questions. Become somebody who asks questions. If you are the manager, ask everybody questions. Let the people come to you through questions to them. Ask them, how can we improve this company? Ask them, how can we be more profitable? How can we survive through COVID? Ask them, how can we increase church membership in this church? Ask them, how can we teach well? Ask them, who is the best president in this country? Be a person who asks a question. And by the way, you can follow us on one of the courses that we teach on asking questions. Number two, David gathered key information that Goliath did not gather. Now, for Goliath, he employed what we call shortcut because for him, he did not know the armies of Israel as anything more. He just knew them; they were servants of Saul. Look at that declaratory naming. But for David, He knew three things about his people, which are very important. And number one, he knew about their aspirations. And aspiration, what they longed for. As a leader, you must be able to know what are the people longing for. What are they? What do they want to do? What are they looking forward to do? And for David, he knew if there's anything that his people were longing for, they were longing with unbated breath the day when they are going to be released under the oppression of the Philistines. He knew that. He knew their aspiration. But again, he also knew their frustrations. He knew what really angered them, what made them angry. And if there's anything that actually made them angry, is very simple. They were made angry because of the taunting, because of the mockery, because of lack of respect that actually Goliath made unto them. So he knew about their aspirations, he knew about their frustrations, but again he also knew about their limitations. He knew what actually hindered them, what actually stopped them, what actually arrested their growth, what actually stopped them from accomplishing their aspirations, from meeting their aspirations. He knew it. And but again, even of important is that he also knew the solution. It is not enough to know people's aspiration and even their problems, or rather their limitations and frustration. But again, it is also important to know the solutions. Politicians will travel this land and they will tell us about our problems. They will tell us about our limitations, our frustrations. But would they show us the solution? And this was something that actually made King Saul to give David an opportunity, much as he did not believe in him. And every time when you step into a situation and you are able to tell people their solutions, and you are able to understand their aspirations, their limitations, and their frustration, and then number four, you are able to give them the solution, definitely you are going to have a job. And if you are seeking an opportunity in the workplace, please, it is not enough to know the aspirations, the frustrations, the limitation. It is also equally important to know the solution. And so this made David to have a job and was given the opportunity to handle Goliath. And then of importance is that David did three things very well. David brought into the table three things that I think are very important, which Goliath did not bring. And this is it. He brought revelation. He brought solution. Um, and these are the things that actually he brought. Um, uh, he brought he brought liberation. And revelation is what we call revelation is what needs to be done. He brought that which was hidden, that was not known. Revelation is the ability to open up opportunities, to be able to show people obstacles that they need to overcome. You need to show people opportunities that have not been yet utilized. And I think that is very important for us to be able to bring on the table. And this is what David actually brought. He and when he brought a revelation, and then number two, he brought also inspiration. What did Goliath bring on the table? He brought intimidation. That's why everybody ran away from him. That's why nobody wanted to associate himself with. That's why his time and his tenure was short-lived. What did David bring on the table? He brought what we are calling revelation. He showed the darkness. He showed them these are the obstacles. These are the challenges. These are the opportunities. This is the strategy, revelation. And I think it is high time that we bring about revelation to the men and women of God. And if we have to survive successfully, if we have to thrive after COVID, then one of the things that we actually need to bring is liberation. What young men and young women need, what the government need, and what the church needs to be giving to the politicians, it is not rebuke. What we need to be telling them is to give them revelation. And if you are a woman and a woman of God or a man of God, one of the things that you really need to ask God to help you is to bring revelation, to show people what they need to avoid and what they need to embrace, the path that they need to avoid and the path that they need to follow, the opportunities, the ideas that they need to embrace, and the opportunities and the idea that they need to discard, the trends and the habits they need to embrace, or they need to form, or trends and opportunities that they need to discard. That is very important. We need to share out there. We need to be giving revelation. And then number two, and this is what David brought on the table, is what we call inspiration. In other words, he gave energy. He actually encouraged. He breathed in possibilities. He said, inawezekana. He said, it is possible. We can be able to stop this narrative. Goliath can come to an end. And it is very important for us to be able to reach that level whereby we are able to tell everybody that we can be able to overcome this problem. We can be able to find solution. A leader is a dealer of hope. What a leader sells from his shop is nothing but hope. And when as a leader you fail to sell hope, then we always say that you really need to close the shop. As a leader, whether you are a pastor, whether you are a politician, or whether you are in the marketplace, whether you're in corporate, whether you're in government, as a leader, every time you must tell genuine hope, and you must tell people that these challenges are coming to an end. In fact, you must buy the slogan inawezekana, because people are living in a moment when they are crushed. They are told haiwezekani, they are told it is not possible. But a leader, you need to sell hope. And I think David was given the opportunity to face Goliath because, number one, as we said, he showed liberation. He said, this is what I'm going to do. Nobody is willing to face Goliath. Here I am. I am going to do it. This is the liberation. Here I am. You don't know that, but I have the capacity. I have the energy. I have the skills. I have the burden. I feel commissioned by God to go and handle him. And again, don't worry. Don't get discouraged. Don't lose heart on account of this man. I am going to handle him. And I think that is very important. And then again, the third thing that David brought that nobody else brought, and that gave him a hearing in front of a doubting king, is the passion, is the energy. We must not go through the phase of life like rained on chicken. We must go with gusto. We must go with energy. There must be a spring in our steps. We must put a smile, and we need to tell everybody, and even our body language needs to communicate that we are there and that we are capable. And much as we are scared and intimidated by the enemy, we must increase the spring in our steps, and people must read energy in our life. And then finally, of importance, something that David knew that nobody knew about is the strategy. David knew about the strategy of the enemy, and it gives you leverage, it gives you success, it gives you advantage over your enemies when you are able to know the strategy of the enemy. Very important. And for David, he knew that the strategy of the enemy, and actually comes out in the questions that he asked, because he knew two things about the strategy of the enemy. Number one, he knew that one of the enemy's strategy was taunting. In other words, making the enemy to look small. Goliath thrived in making his enemies look small, look useless, look ineffective, look like nothing. No wonder he says, am I a dog? That's why you are coming against me with sticks and stones. That is taunting, that is loving. And friends, one of the things that the enemy does in our lives is to make us look small, is to make us look useless, is to make us look like nothing. And when the enemy succeed in making you nothing and making you unimportant and making you useless, then he knows that is battle have done. He has already been able to conquer you like 50% of the war. And again, he trash. That was the second strategy, is trashing. And trashing says making the enemy look useless. And that is something that that Goliath did with a lot of success. But who was he doing it that? Was it David? Because David thrashed and trashed at that. And you know, the enemy would look at you and say, by the way, who are you? Are you able to face the giants, the multinationals, those companies that have been like here, memorial? You know, if you are a pastor starting up in ministry, you know, the enemy would want to tell you, hey, are you able to face the mainstream that have been there, and have the connection, they have the power, they have like everything. And that is very important for us to be able to realize what the enemy is doing, because once we are able to know how the enemy is doing, then we are able to counter attack. We are able to put up strategies that will be able either to put a stop order on what the enemy is doing, or we are able to put a countermeasure on the enemy such that he is not able to succeed. You know, the enemy would want to surprise us. He would want just to imagine surprise us, and do what we call a surprise attack, such that we are taken. He wins very quickly. So, if you ask me, what did David know that Goliath did not know? And you say, number one, he knew by asking questions. And it is very important that you develop a culture of asking questions. When you go to your juniors, ask them questions. How can we improve? How can we improve our market share? Uh, where are our areas of weaknesses? Where do we need to improve? Who do we need to hire? Who do we need to fire? Ask them questions, and arm yourself with a notebook and a pen. Make sure that you're listening to the answers. People will give you ideas, people will give you suggestions, people will show you opportunities, people will show you obstacles, people will show you lines of wastages. They are just going to open up things to you, and it's going to be amazing. Number two, David knew about three things that Goliath ignored. He knew about aspirations. He knew about, four things. He knew about aspirations. He knew about limitations. He knew about frustrations. He knew the passion that these people have. And it is very important as a worker, as a leader, to be able to know these things in your life. Because when you miss to know these things, then you're not going to provide leadership. If you know people's aspirations, what they long to do, if you know people's limitations, what actually stops them, if you know their frustration, things that are stopping them, then you're going to be successful, because you're going to give yourself to solving those problems. Then again, we said by asking questions, David was able to do three things. Number one, we said he was able to have revelation. He was able to understand. He was able to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Revelation is very important, because it's like opening up a black box, and you're able to see what is going on, and you're able to go out there and be able to fix the problems, because you actually have revelation. Remember what the Bible says, that my people fail because of lack of knowledge. My people fail because of lack of liberation. You know, marriages are breaking up, companies are breaking up, nations are splitting because they lack revelation. And it is only the church, it is only believers, it is only the kingdom of God that we've been endowed with liberation. You know, we are able to understand what is eating each other. We are able to understand what is the problem. And we need a heavy dose of liberation. And then we've said David also knew about the enemy's strategy. It is very important for us to be able to know the enemy's strategy. And by doing that, then we are going to be credible. We are going to be effective in the marketplace. We are going to improve, and we are going to impact the world around us, the marketplace around us with Christ, and Christ is going to be honored. For those of you that have watched us, thank you very much. Tarus Moses, Sapienza, Kelvin, and there's a guy called Dave Francis, and then my good friend Dr. Julie. Thank you very much, and the many of you that have been able to join us. But kindly remember to follow us on our social media, on Telegram, on TikTok, on YouTube, and then on Facebook. You know, just follow us, and the name is John Kimani. Remember what you always say: inawezekana. Until next week, such a time as this, a blessed night. Thank you.